You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, it's time for another top 5. And this one is going to be a little bit different. We did games the last 2 weeks. This time we're going to get back into somewhat like movies, but this time I'm going to give you my personal top 5 favorite actors, male actors. And these are actors that I've seen since I was a kid. So a lot of you guys may not agree with this, which is fine. This is not a top list for me to say, these are the best actors of all time. Nobody can question that. No, these are just my personal favorite actors from the time I first saw them as a kid all the way up till, maybe not till now, because unfortunately some of them have fallen off the map. But there's some of them that are still thriving and still, one would argue, in their prime. So let's get started. At number 5, Cary Elwes. Cary Elwes. For those of you who don't know, you might be a little bit more familiar with him as he was in the first Saw movie, played Dr. Gordon, the one who eventually cut his foot off. But I first saw Cary Elwes when I was very, very young. And he was, he made a lot of interesting movies. I first saw him in Glory, and he wasn't the lead role, but he was one of the supporting actors. And from then forward, I saw a lot of his films. You know, he did comedy, Men in Tights, for those of you who aren't familiar, Hot Shots, you know, he was in that movie. It was very funny. He was also in a movie with Tom Cruise, Days of Thunder. And the thing I like about Cary Elwes is that he can do comedy. He can play a pain in the ass, you want to just kill him kind of villain. And he can play a role where he's a little bit more serious and you do care for him. And, you know, like in Saw, you know, you felt his pain. This guy's chained to this damn thing. He wants to save his family, but he's not, you know, he's not a violent person. He's, at the same time, he doesn't want to kill this kid. And I've seen his movies growing up. And unfortunately, he's not around as much anymore. Although, in one of the more recent Justice League cartoons, he did play the voice of, he did do the voice of Aquaman. But yeah, he's not around as much as he used to be. But during the time I was growing up, during the 90s and the early 2000s, he did a lot of work. He did a lot of good work. I always felt that he was an underrated actor because since I had seen him in so many diverse roles, to me, that's a sign of talent. And it's just unfortunate that he never really kind of hit the higher echelons of acting. It could have been a number of reasons why. Sometimes it's a bad choice of movies. Sometimes it's a bad agent. But nonetheless, I really did appreciate a lot of his work, back in the early 90s, leading into the early millennium. And, yeah, he's just one of my favorites, growing up. So at number 4, Tim Curry. There was actually a time that Tim Curry was just outright my favorite actor, period. Nobody could take that top spot. But as time progressed, that changed. Tim Curry, you guys must know this guy, especially some of you young guys. Tim Curry, first of all, let's start way back when. So if you've seen, if you've seen the Rocky Horror Picture Show, you know who Tim Curry is. Tim Curry played Frankenfooter. And then, later on in the early 80s, in a very serious and dark role, he played Darkness in the movie Legend, one of Tom Cruise's first ever movies. And, he's so awesome in that movie. So awesome. And he also played Wadsworth in Clue. That was a year later. So this is another actor who, growing up, I saw that diversity. He can do comedy. He can play serious. He can play psychopath. In fact, he originally auditioned for the role. And I forget the name of the character in the movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the main villain who was played by Christopher Lloyd. He was actually up for that role, but he played it so dark and so scary that the production crew said, okay, no, that's a little bit too much. Cause remember, it was a cartoon movie, but he could really, really nail roles. And I was so lucky. I got to see him live twice. I got to see him play, Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol in Madison Square Garden at the Paramount. And I got to see him on Broadway playing, King Arthur in Spamalot. And it was so fun to watch him. And he was also in Home Alone, Congo, which is not the greatest movie in the world, but he's been in a lot of good movies. Another actor that has great diversity. Another actor that unfortunately has fallen off the map over the years. But, nonetheless, very talented, very diverse, and I had a lot of fun watching a bunch of his movies growing up. And if you haven't seen some of the movies I listed, go check them out. Especially Legend and Clue. I think those are two, and of course Rocky Horror Picture Show, but I think everyone and their mother has seen that by now. But if you haven't seen some of his other titles, I highly recommend it. He's a great actor. He's a lot of fun to watch on screen. So Tim Curry at number 4. Okay, so at number 3, Ralph Fiennes. Yes, Ralph Fiennes, another fantastic actor, still doing a lot of work now. He's done a lot of good movies. Some of his movies in the more recent have not been as renowned as some of his earlier work. But for those of you who are not familiar with him, he played Lord Voldemort in the Harry Potter series, starting from Goblet of Fire going forward. One of the movies that I saw that and I thought he was great in was The Duchess. That movie also he co-starred with Keira Knightley, and that was a very, very good movie. He played a complete asshole in that movie, but it was such a good movie. If you've never seen Red Dragon, one of the Silence of the Lamb movies, he was great in that movie as well. Just a very good actor. And he's another one, very diverse. He's done some lighthearted comedy romance, Made in Manhattan, where he co-starred with Jennifer Lopez. Obviously, Harry Potter, playing Voldemort. Some of you guys might know him as playing Hades in the recent Clash of the Titans and Wrath of the Titan movies. And but he's also done some fantastic work overall, and he's a lot of fun to watch. He really, he's a very, very intense actor sometimes. Like if you see him play Voldemort, man, he's really into it. He gets really into his role. So I've always enjoyed watching him in his movies, and it's been a lot of fun, and that's why he's number 3, Ralph Fiennes. So at number 2, Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington, I first saw for the first time back in the early 90s, or maybe the movie came out in the late 80s, but I saw it, I think, in the 90s when I was in school as part of a history class. And I first saw him in Glory. And for those of you who haven't seen Glory, especially you younger guys, man, go check that movie out. It is so good. But that's when I first saw him. He was very, very young. And another actor who I seen progress. Didn't do a whole mess of comedy. He didn't do, actually, I don't think he's done really any, but he's done a lot of great movies. And, I liked him in Ricochet. That was another movie he was very good in. And John Lithgow in that movie was just as good. Then, even though this movie was horrible, Fallen, I think it was Falling. But if you've seen the movie, you know which movie I'm referring to. And, even though that movie may not have been that great, he did a great performance, I think. Training Day. Who could forget Training Day? My nigga. You know, who could forget that line when it was just so funny. He's in the car and Ethan Hawke is just taking drugs. He just set him up so bad. Did such a good job playing a villain in that movie, which is why he won the Oscar for that movie. And then, of course, a lot of other movies he's been in. He's done a lot of work, and everything he's been in, even if the movies haven't been that great, you can tell this guy goes all the way, 110%, gives a great performance. He's always a pleasure to see on the screen, even if the movie does not do well. He enhances it. He brings the best he can to make the movie good. And he's just a fantastic actor. He's a lot of fun to watch. So Denzel Washington at number 2. And at number 1, Daniel fucking Day-Lewis. Badass. Here's a guy who has done 25 movies. 25 movies. Out of those 25, he's been nominated 5 times for an Oscar, and he's won 3. Badass. And, it's funny, a lot of people wonder why he doesn't, why you never see him in more movies. But the thing of it is, Daniel Day-Lewis purposely does that. You'll only see Daniel Day-Lewis in a movie like once every 3 or 4 years, and he's very particular about what roles he takes. He's just very into his craft. He doesn't just take any role. Like, he is very picky about what he takes. And I remember reading that, and then when you look at his filmography, this dude, since 1971 till now, has only done 25 movies. But pretty much every movie he's in is gold. Pretty much. I mean, more recently, you got Lincoln. Okay, he won an Oscar for that. Gangs of New York he was fucking great in that movie. Gangs of New York, good movie. He was awesome in that movie. And he's just, like I said, the guy does fantastic films. You know, from back in the day, Last of the Mohicans was a big deal for him. I mean, he is a very fantastic actor. I don't know if there's too many fans about him because he's not out there like a lot of actors are. But man, if you can appreciate a good actor, man, watch this dude's movies. And just to name a few movies that he's been in, Lincoln, Gangs of New York, There Will Be Blood, which was a fantastic movie. Last of the Mohicans, as I said, you know, I mean, the list goes on and on. The Crucible was very good. I mean, this guy again, he only does it every couple of years, which is why there's some people out there who don't even know who he is. I'm only very aware of him because I grew up watching a lot of his movies as well. Last of the Mohicans was the first movie I had ever seen him in. And it's fun to see his performance. He really gets into the roles. He does an excellent job. You can tell that he takes his craft very seriously. And I can appreciate that, especially when you consider the amount of money you have to invest to go see a movie these days. The last thing you want is to see an actor who's giving a half-assed job. This guy does not. He goes all the way. And a lot of these actors that I have on my list, I've always done a fine job. They've been a very pivotal point in my, you know, entertainment growing up, which is why, you know, these 5 are my personal top 5 actors, from the time I started watching movies and understanding them up to this point. And obviously, you know, unfortunately, Carrie Elwes and Tim Curry they're not out there as much as they used to be, but I still appreciate what they did back in the day. So, but anyway, guys, that's it. Those are my top 5 personal actors, male. Next week, I will do my top 5 female actresses. And, yeah, that'll be fun. We'll see. So why don't you tell me some of your favorite actors, male, growing up? And, let's see. It'll be very interesting to see if any of our selections cross each other. Be very nice. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news. We just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Don't forget to subscribe and join the Nation Facebook page.